Trick or treat, Fellolitas, and happy Halloween! It's a little weird for me to be starting off a video in full coordinate, but it is the season and I have been looking for a reason to debut my Dorothy Wizard of Oz coordinate for a long time, and this seemed like exactly the right occasion. Today, I'm not going to unbox anything, I'm not buying anything. However, it being Halloween season, it is also about to be the season for post-Halloween store retail sales. I live in the Bay Area in California in the United States, and I'm sure this is not the only place in the world where Halloween stores pop up in vacant brick and mortar stores, and in the case of my area, the most common one is Spirit Halloween Store. Now, it can be tempting, especially for beginners to the fashion, to see Halloween stores and think, yes, this is going to be my entry into the fashion. I am going to get some starter pieces here, and hold on real quick before you do that, please make sure to watch this video. There are indeed some things that you can find at Halloween and costume stores that, you know, could be loliable with some work, but there are a lot of things that might be even marketed as loliable or that might seem loliable but are actually terrible quality. And today we are going to be looking at the Spirit Halloween Store website just to scope out what they've got, and on November 1st, when everything goes on deep discount clearance sale, if you happen to find yourself in one of the Halloween stores looking to pick up some Lolita staples, hopefully this video will steer you in the right direction and hopefully also steer you hard away from anything that would be construed as Ida, which is the Lolita fashion term for no. As for my credentials, I too have gone through an Ida phase. It has affected all of us at one time or another. And while I had been interested in the fashion since 2007, I only started to collect pieces for my wardrobe building in 2012, and around that time I was a college student and so broke that I would do things like go to Halloween stores and look for things like petticoats and jewelry, shoes, wigs, anything I could get my hands on for cheap. And so November 1st was my most anticipated day of the year. I thought I would go in and get a bunch of stuff, build out my wardrobe, and become a real Lolita. That did not work for me, let me tell you. I got some petticoats that were too short and the wrong shape. It was not great. And I basically wasted my money. They were cheap, but it still would have been better to put the money that I spent on those things towards a real petticoat. However, I have gotten lucky. There are shoes that I've gotten from Halloween stores that I have absolutely worn in this fashion. This can be a great time of year to find Gothic jewelry pieces and spooky themed jewelry pieces, which match a ton of Lolita items, including my spooky macarons JSK by Lady Sloth, which I just happened to have reviewed recently, so you can go check that out too. Anyway, yes, there are things that you can find, buy, and apply, but today we are going to determine once and for all, is the stuff at Spirit Halloween Store loliable or not? Join me on my computer as I click through. Now, obviously, a lot of this stuff is definitely not applicable, but even here looking at this homepage, you might think, oh, this could be kind of clown Lita. Look at her poofy sleeves and look at her gathered waist skirt and stuff. But do not get any sort of main piece from a Spirit Halloween store. I can guarantee you that it doesn't matter how much they charge. It is just not going to be worth the price. This stuff is made to be worn once and disposed of. It's basically the seasonal version of fast fashion, and it won't last you more than a year or two, only a couple days of wear. Let's take a look at some things. First of all, let's start off with wigs. A lot of these wigs look like they could be applicable for Lolita styles. For example, this Velma wig or these curls, maybe even the Harley Quinn one if you wanted to put it up in some buns. But as a rule, please do not buy wigs from a costume store. For $20, this Velma style wig or this long black wig with bangs or even a really full curly blonde wig for $25, you could probably get at your local beauty supply place and have it be made to be worn year-round by folks who wear wigs on the regular, either because of hair loss or for fashion or religion. There are just so many cultures out there that wear wigs on the daily, and the prices are about as good as these for synthetic options at least. They'll be more comfortable, they're actually made to be worn for hours and hours, day in, day out, and they'll be a much better investment than these things. So please, please, please avoid the temptation interpretation. These things might look good in the stock photos and everything, but you'll note that there isn't a picture of what the actual packaging looks like, and that is incredibly sus. If you were holding this thing in your hands, you would be like, yeah, that doesn't look like what's on the package. These things are seldom going to lie flat if they have straight hair. The scalp part is non-existent. The mesh is very thick. It doesn't breathe. And often these wigs shed the second you get them out of the bag. So yes, let's just assume that if it's a wig from Spirit Halloween store, it's gonna get an ah from me. Okay, but what about shoes, right? Right off the bat, we've got these witch shoe covers and steampunk shoe covers. This sort of thing looks like it could be okay. You'd really have to see how it looks in person. So while this does look like it could be made of like decent materials like brocade and little metal pieces, and these bows could actually have some sort of function, I suspect that this kind of boot cover is not going to do you any favors. But look at these shoes, okay? This is Abigail Heels, it says. So this comes in a variety of sizes, and it has some different options for your shoelaces, I guess. And you know what? If this is something that appeals to you, if you want a super witchy angular shoe for your Gothic Lolita cords or elegant Gothic aristocrat stuff, I would say you could take a chance on this. This seems pretty loliable. Likewise, these black heels are kind of strippery. We don't judge, however. This kind of footwear is actually really commonplace, especially in Japan. It's sort of just an alternative fashion staple, but for $90, I think it would be better if you just went with Pleaser or Ellie shoes, which of course I have a bias for, or Demonia or something like that, because I don't know who made this shoe, I don't know what kind of quality it is, and it could be loliable, but for that price, you're probably better off checking somewhere else. Let's keep going down the shoe rabbit hole. We're finally finding some good stuff here. So, leg warmers. That's a nah. And there are these like simple heels that you can see here. This one looks like a character shoe that you might find in like a Broadway, like musical theater application. And I would say that that's pretty loliable, actually, especially if you're going for a classic style. But again, for 30 bucks, just look at Capezio. They've got sales all the time, and there are tons of places like dancewear stores online that stock that kind of shoe, and it'll just be better made if you get it from a brand that is actually designing it to be worn as dancewear. I don't know who made that, but a dancewear shoe company makes shoes to last, because a lot of these shoes get modified and baked into performance costumes that have to last multiple seasons. So the shoe as a base has to be a better quality than whatever you're gonna get at Spirit for 30 bucks. So loliable, sure, but it's still a nah from me. Now, these knee-high pink socks have given me an interesting line of inquiry. Let's look at socks and stockings. Because looking at these, you might think that some of them could be pretty loliable. Like these over-the-knee socks and whatnot, you could probably find them at a similar price somewhere else. Aha! So these, for example, let's take a look at these black lace ruffle socks. It's one size fits most. It's black rose lace with a little lace cuff topper, and for $7, it's probably not worth the price. But if you're seeing these on the sale rack the day after Halloween, I'd say it's pretty loliable, and I would give that a thumbs up for sure. In fact, I have a notebook right here to make notes for myself come November 1st to go hunting at my local spirit store, so I'm gonna write this down. So that's one example of something that is pretty loliable. But like these Mickey Mouse ruffle socks, the ruffle is in a weird place. They're definitely for children. I would pass on that for sure. Anything that's generally just like a crew sock or something, I would also probably avoid. Well, let's take a look at these. This is a crochet steampunk thigh-high stocking. Within Lolita style, I would call this an OTK, over-the-knee sock, especially since we don't really want to emphasize thighs, and especially not thigh gap with a short enough skirt. But I do think that the texture of this stocking is good, especially for classic Lolita. And so if you saw something like this, I could definitely see a case for buying it. However, it's only got 1.5 stars. scars. What happened? Ha! Okay, apparently they are not plus size friendly, so that's another thing you gotta look out for. As a plus size and swole Lolita at 6 feet tall and 250 pounds, I have a feeling these would not work for me. However, the advice that I'm trying to give in this video is not just relevant to plus size Lolitas, it is relevant to all people and all experience levels. So if you are a skinny and or small person, maybe something like this could work for you. Let's look at stockings. Aha, bingo, bingo, bingo. So here is an area where I feel like we can get a lot of mileage. For one thing, it seems like some of these are maybe plus size friendly. There is a plus size option here. Fishnet stockings, most people will say are a no-go for Lolita. I know lots of Lolitas, some of whom are very popular, who do actually love and advocate for fishnets with Lolita. I am not one of those people. I think it's a personal choice ultimately, but I don't do it. I just have so many scars on my legs and bruises all the time from all of my various wrestling endeavors, so I always want tights that are a little more opaque, or if it is a fishnet, to have some sort of pattern that distracts the eye. If it's your jam, I guess you can make that decision for yourself, but please keep in mind that it is more of an advanced coordination technique, so don't go into Lolita thinking you're going to wear fishnet stockings with your first cord. It's just going to make things harder on you. So maybe skip like some of this, and definitely skip like that stuff. But there can be things like patterned tights. These are kid-sized, but this is a great example of what I'm talking about as far as loliable stuff you can find at Halloween stores. This is super cute, and I wish this came in my size. This is absolutely exactly my jam. Little crescent moons built into fishnets, I could work with this. And if you were doing a Gothic coordinate, and especially if you had some sort of night sky or moon theme, like so many prints have, I would absolutely say that this is loliable and you could totally add this to your wardrobe. But you'd have to be kid-sized, so, you know, if it works for you, more power to you. This pair of witchy pentagram fishnet tights I actually recognize. I believe this is the same as what Leg Avenue sells, and for that price, it's I mean, you can find them elsewhere, and I think you can probably do better than this price, but again, if you're hunting on November 1st and you see these pentagram fishnet tights, I would say go get them because they are loliable. And here's another option that I'm just seeing. I know this is misleading because it's got like bows on the shoes and this like short little petticoaty looking thing. Imagine that the feet were covered and replaced by like black tea parties, and the dress was so long that it came to right above the knee and all you saw was the patterned floral. I think that's pretty loliable. But yeah, so you can see there are a couple. Kids Vampirina tights. The best stuff they're not making in my size. This is just wrong. It's just mean. Okay, so we've been through wigs, socks, stockings, and shoes. Why don't we look at petticoats? So looking up the word petticoat, I didn't find anything. That should tell you a lot, to be honest. But if you look for the word tutu, you will find a lot of stuff that is basically petticoats. And let us review why not getting them is the better option. For one thing, all of these options are way too short. And I could see the argument that you could like layer one of these on top of a longer A-line petticoat to kind of modify the silhouette into more of a bell shape instead of buying a second bell petticoat. But I can tell you from experience that wearing multiple layers of petticoats just gets really hard on your stomach area after a while, especially if they're all different levels of elastic. So looking down the row, there is nothing here that I would say could work as a Lolita item. This appears to be the longest of them, and it's built into a dress. And the further down we scroll, the less these are starting to look like Lolita petticoats. Look at Me Likes Tea, look at Cream and Sugar Lolita, look at some Taobao shops. There are so many options that are not going to be this crappy. All right, let's try Goth Jewelry. So looking up Goth jewelry doesn't give you much, but I think it gives you at least one good example, which is this Gothic Jewelry Set. Now, I would say that this is absolutely loliable. It comes with a set of earrings and a matching necklace. It's the sort of thing that if you wanted to invest in a main piece and start building a Gothic wardrobe, especially if you had an OP with a lower neckline and you wanted to go for something more Victorian, more vampiric, this would be a really good option. But if you scroll down a little bit, here are some more things that immediately stand out to me as something one might think are loliable. This Day of the Dead rose lace choker necklace. I don't love. Specifically, I don't like that it's marketed as a Day of the Dead thing, but if this were called something simpler like Gothic rose necklace with chains, I would be a lot more on board, and honestly, it does look like the sort of thing that would be pretty loliable. I cannot speak to the quality of this. It being $10, it's a bit suspicious. Yeah, for sure. I can't say whether or not it's got very strong chains. I can't say whether or not that flower is glued on and just gonna fall right off. So this would be something that you would really need to evaluate in person as far as quality goes. The design's pretty loliable. All right, let's check out this lace bracelet with ring. This looks like it's probably extremely cheap, but it also does look like it could be kind of loliable. I would be very suspicious of the quality of how this looks in person, but based on the 2 images provided, this one looks very photoshopped. This is extra suspicious because the 2 photos don't actually match what you're seeing from the item. Like this design around the red gem is very different from both this red gem's design and this red gem's design, so I would absolutely not buy this sight unseen, but if it is closer in quality to the second image with the close-up than it is to the first, it might actually be worth like half off of $7 just to have a nice little thing to build your wardrobe. This could go with a ton of stuff, especially for Gothic substyles. So yes, I would say this is loliable, but highly suspicious. Proceed with caution. And of course, it figures that vampire would be a better keyword for finding jewelry. This vampire necklace is pretty cool. Again, seems like it's probably really cheaply made, but the design of it, in and of itself, not so bad. If this was half off for like $6.50 or less, and it seemed like it was in good enough condition, I might get that. That seems pretty loliable. Ooh, this reminds me, Gothic lace vampire gloves. Let's look at gloves next, because gloves are super underutilized in Lolita fashion, and obviously a lot of this is not going to work. If you're looking at something and it's a fingerless glove, right off the bat, I would say avoid it. I have seen some people coordinate like biker gloves and stuff like that with Lolita, but that's pretty advanced stuff, and it is kind of specific to punk and or visual K inspired Lolita, so don't do that if you're a beginner just trying to build your wardrobe. Let's take a closer look at these Gothic lace vampire gloves. I am on the fence, honestly. This looks like it could be pretty good. I'm looking at them in terms of both the style and the materials, and the materials look like they're probably pretty cheap, and of course I wouldn't wear them because I'm Jewish and so crosses are a no-go. If this included more like a satin ribbon or something a little more understated, it would be one thing, but it just kind of looks gaudy in this context. Like if that bow and cross were on a solid glove with a lace trim, that's another thing, and this might be me splitting hairs. Probably this could be loliable to some person in their wardrobe, but for me it just looks really cheap and not like something I would want to put on my hands all day. Crosses and cheap plastic costume jewelry, it's a nah for me. But there are tons and tons of interesting options here. I don't think anything on this page really strikes me as loliable. Ooh, this appears to be a steampunk wrist cuff, and oh my gosh. So this looks like it's actually made with the same kind of pre-elasticized lace that I made my wrist cuffs out of. That is wild. And it's got like another layer of brown lace underneath, and that would seem to point towards this is loliable. However, I am so anti-steampunk anything that just throws gears on top of something and they do nothing and they mean nothing. So the steampunk stan in me is gonna call this a nah. But if you are doing some sort of steampunk Lolita and you're not a stickler for the actual rules and world building of steampunk, I guess you could get away with this, maybe. Sorry, is that shady? Come on, I want to end on a good note. Is there not anything that could be considered loliable? Okay, here we go. So here we have a different style of wrist cuffs. These are a lot longer. You don't really see that in Lolita. Mostly you see like shorter wrist cuffs, but I don't hate these at all. For one thing, the lace is really simple. The bows on them are very subtle. In fact, I had to click in to even see that there were horror bows, and I could totally see this working for classic or Gothic Lolita, so that seems pretty good. And I think the last area of inquiry that I really want to check out is headwear. Hair bow. Oh, good God. I immediately regret this. So head bows are a staple in Lolita. We see them all the time, not just on the top of the head or clipped to the side or whatever, but also for use in pigtails. I am hoping that there is at least one example of something that could be Loliable in this mess of results. If you see a JoJo Siwa bow, they're very cute. I do think there's a time and place for them. The time and place is not Lolita fashion. Do not wear a JoJo bow with Lolita fashion. This scares me. I'm going to click on it, and I'm sorry in advance. Oh, Jesus. So this is clearly some sort of Lolita as Halloween costume item because it's a doll head bow. And when you look at it, there's some sort of Lolita elements going on with the styling here. There's like the puff sleeve and the sailor collar. And when you look at the other colorways, there's a pink one, a lavender one, and a black one. And all of this is cringe. Do not buy any of this stuff. None of those items and none of these pictures are Lolita. None of these bows are Loliable. You don't want pleather in your Lolita head bows. Also, this bow is what you would call a square bow, which tends not to be the best choice for Lolita. It happens when you take something that is square and you just scrunch it in the middle. So it fans out like a bow on both sides, and it's really a useful technique for things like cosplay. It's generally not what you want to see in Lolita head bows, which tend to be more structured, often posable, with more detail accents like lace trim or beading, or the fabric might be printed. That would be a big no. Let's never talk about those again. This is getting somewhere closer. I could see, pairing something like this, or maybe even this, with a sort of themed cord, but I would probably skip it. These Hocus Pocus hair bows also look like they're at least detailed and well constructed and, designed enough to be useful, but they really look like cosplay pieces, like something that you would put in a Disney bound of these characters. Just looking at bow in general definitely broadens things out, but it also doesn't give us anything more relevant to the results. There's definitely some more steampunky stuff. There's some, do not go for this. Please don't. Oh geez, the split wigs. Just save up and get Minty Mix or something. It's not worth it. Yeah, I think head bows are unfortunately a no-go here. How about, hey, okay, a Gothic Top Hat? If you wanted to do an EGA cord, this doesn't look so bad. For 20 bucks, one size fits most. It's got a cameo, it's got some lace-up stuff. I would say that's pretty Loliable. I don't know about the quality in person, of course, but if it looked good and it was on a shelf and it was half off, Now looking at this Gothic mini hat headband, ooh. This strikes me as the sort of thing that might be marketed as Loliable, but I would not. First of all, it looks super cheaply made. Second of all, you can kind of see this like little bit of fuzz area around the headband, which tells me that the headband is covered in like one of those really cheap plush velvet things, and this is going to fall apart after 2 wears. I would say that's a nah. But here is a black and white mini crown. Crowns are very trendy in Lolita. The fact that this is a little bit off center is actually really cool to me. And for $8 with a satin covered headband and some beading and some different types of lace, yeah, that's going on my list. I'm gonna look for this for sure. This is actually really cute. And if you have a lot of black and white Gothic pieces in your wardrobe, white is like the easiest secondary color to build a Gothic wardrobe around. This would actually be a pretty decent addition. Like maybe it would fall off the headband, maybe you'd need to reinforce it, maybe you'd need to repair it. I don't know how good the quality is in person, but just based on what I'm seeing online and knowing that it's $8, that's probably pretty worth it, and I'd say it's Loliable. So yeah, let's follow that line of thought real quick and just look at crowns before we wrap up. Okay, cool. So actually, a lot of these crowns I could totally see incorporating into a Lolita wardrobe. Crowns are more of a statement piece. Crowns crowns can look really cheap, especially if it's like plastic and gems. This looks very super duper cheap. I'm not sure it's really a good idea to get this for 20 bucks, but something like it, especially if it seemed to be good quality in person, I could totally validate you getting. Same thing with like this crown here. I don't know why it's marketed as a skeleton thing, but it's pretty. It's got nice colors. To me, this looks like it would be more of a mermaid crown, frankly, but mermaid Lolita cords are a thing and totally valid. So yeah, I would say this is pretty. Again, for 20 bucks, I'm a little on the fence about it. It would have to come down to the quality of it. Twilight Vampire Tiara. I mean, I don't know what it has to do with Twilight, but it's kind of cool looking. I have no idea what the quality would look like, and the fact that it's for kids means it's probably too small for any adult head, let alone an adult head wearing a wig, but that's cool. Ooh, candy heart earrings. I don't know what makes them kids earrings and not just earrings with candy hearts, but I kind of love this. I would say this is Loliable. Who knew? Well, that was absolutely fascinating. Yeah, I could go into even more on this. I feel like I could talk about this forever. I could go through every page, every category of this site and find a ton of stuff that would work and a ton of stuff that you should avoid. But the rule of thumb is if it's really cheap and it looks like it's going to fall apart on you, don't get it. That's a nah. If it's a direct reference to a specific character or doll themed, it's probably not going to work for Lolita because Lolita is its own thing. Doll fashion and doll dresses and whatnot are really for people who are casually interested in the aesthetic that we are going for, but ultimately not interested in any sort of Lolita fashion lifestyle or the community or building a wardrobe. For the kind of people that ask you every Halloween to borrow one of your dresses, they should be getting one of those. You should not, period. That's a nah. But if it's something small and it seems like it's pretty good quality, maybe it is worth taking a chance on, especially if it's on a November 1st or later deep discount post-Halloween sale. We love a good bargain on this channel, and if you want to take a chance on something like that, it seems pretty low risk. Just stay away from like the petticoats and the weird pleather head bows and the stripper shoes that come in 3 sizes. I know this video was very different from my usual fare, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway. If you thought it was entertaining or helpful in any way, please do give it a thumbs up because this super duper helps me with the YouTube algorithm. And if I'm helped out by the algorithm and this video is the one that goes viral, that would just be amazing. Maybe then a bunch of noob leaders would find it and they'd, you know, spend their money on something productive instead of wasting it on cheap Halloween crap. And if you're like me and you've gotten lucky at some Halloween or costume store in the past and you found something that was Loliable enough to integrate into your wardrobe, please do let everybody know in the comment section below. I'll be reading them and I'll be on the hunt for some things, and you could help out some other Lolitas that might just be starting out with good budget options for them. Just a quick reminder to follow me on Instagram if you haven't already at Elvira Wrestling. I post things pretty frequently over there, especially as they relate to my upcoming live streams. The next one is November 6th at 1 p.m. Pacific time, and I really hope y'all will be there. I am going to be clearing out my blouses and prepping for a future blouse bonanza video. And of course, if you haven't already, it would be really cool of you to subscribe. I love my growing audience. All of y'all are so amazing, and I have a goal of reaching 1,200 subscribers by the end of the month. I don't think that's going to happen at this rate, but we will see. It's only another 2 days in the month, so if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Oh well. Alright, thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. I have to go change out of this because I'm actually late for wrestling class. I'm Elvira. I am a tall, plus size, and swole Lolita. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way till the end, and I will see you in the next video, whatever that might be. Bye for now.